I know we would shake up a crowd. So let's not forget it next time. Yes, sir.
June 4th continued to be celebrated as a holiday even under the constitutional rule of the 4th Republican Constitution of 1992. And they did so even though the Supreme Court had ruled in a separate matter that the other JJ coup of 31st December 1981 cannot.
Somebody call him Ebube Dike, Jehovah Jare, Ebube Dike. Somebody call him Ebube Dike, Jehovah Nisi, Ebube Dike. Somebody call him Ebube Dike. Aguna Jamba, glorious warrior. Never meet me alagbara, Jehovah Jare, ni alagbara. Ubangijina, Jehovah Jare, Ubangijina. Ebi no friend, Australian for Jehovah Jare, Australian for. Let me quit her when yes, Jehovah Jare, when yes. La pes bisongeli, Jehovah Nisi bisongeli.
The one that goes, here's zamana mana mana watiwa, here's zamana mana watiwa, zamana mana abelefu, here's zamana. That's right. You see what I mean? And if the whole lot of us should pick on his zamana, I know we would shake up a crowd. So let's not forget it next time. Yes, sir.
June 4th continued to be celebrated as a holiday even under the constitutional rule of the 4th Republican Constitution of 1992. And they did so even though the Supreme Court had ruled in a separate matter. One aspect that has not been widely publicized is the grand drama that occurred before Kutua Champon was executed. The said drama is contained in this book, Ghana, Nkrumah to Rawlings, is by Emmanuel Dozoklu, Volume 1, and it covers 1957 to 1993. On page Monday, June 4th, 1979 was a rainy morning. The political campaign towards elections, presidential and parliamentary, for the Third Republic was in full swing. JJ Rawlings and the coup plotters of May 15th were behind bars. And then suddenly, a coup arrived. The generations of Ghanaians who were living in Ghana at that time were those who had had close proximity to the riots of 28 February 1948, the political tensions of the First Republic, the coup d'etat of 1966, and had also heard and seen the excellent speeches of Prime Minister Buzia. And they, that group, had largely orchestrated civil disobedience to force strongman Kutua Champon to hand over to civilian rule. This was the generation that mobilized professionals under the PMFFJ to unseat military rule. So on the morning of 15 May, everyone was angry that another coup was occurring when everything was ready for constitutional rule.
Now,
this anger of the people against coups must have been the reason why the AFRC was forced to maintain the order to hand over power soon after the June 4th revolution. So a complicated calendar emerged. The coup occurred on June 4th. Parliamentary and presidential elections were fought on the 18th of June. The executions were carried out on the 26th of June. The second round of the presidential election occurred in July, and the handover to civilian rule occurred in September. All of this in 1979, a dramatic June to September for all of Ghana's history. So what was the June 4th coup about, and who organized it?
The June 4th uprising was the brainchild of rank-and-file soldiers. No officer, and I repeat, no officer, was involved in its initial stages. It was born out of years of frustration and anger with the officer corps, whose frequent military interventions, mismanagement, and ineptitude had brought our country almost to its knees. Our soldiers wanted to protest against the dictatorship of their superiors.
Be that as it may, was the coup also intended by J.J. Rawlings to be a political advert for the future? Was J.J. launching a bigger political career beyond the rhetoric and the choboy of a revolution? So the AFRC came in when the timetable for constitutional rule had already been set up. No changes were made to that timetable. What then did the revolution seek to achieve, and how did that help the cause of Ghana? I'm afraid to say not much. Not much at all. The high point of the AFRC discussion is the killings, the executions. The first thing the AFRC did was to pass a decree creating special courts to trial people. The trial courts were said to be sitting at the presidential Peduase Lodge in the eastern region. The trial process was horrendous. The courts were actually kangaroo courts, and they convicted their victims of anything they found them guilty of. They gave them huge sentences and prescribed execution for some of them. These courts struggled for credibility. At some point, they claimed that they had relied on the Criminal Code Act 29 as it then was, so that persons who overthrew or participated in the overthrow of constitutionally elected regimes were charged and found guilty of treason, and they were killed by execution. That's the reason they gave for the killing of Kutua Champon and Utuka. But could there have been another reason for the killing of Achampon and others?
General Champon was deemed to have been the leader of a coup which overthrew Dr. Bussia's PP government, and which overthrew Ghana's Second Republic. General Champon was executed as much for the dishonor he had brought to the Ghana Armed Forces. Let's face it, soldiers were shy of our civilian counterparts. We had absolutely no respect from our own compatriots. Why? Because we were soldiers. Urine was being poured on our soldiers who were being sent out on police duties. We were soldiers, not policemen. We wanted to soldier, known as the Jelukofe Mafia, wanted General Achampon dead.
What's me of running the government as a one-man show? They are liars, and that accusation against me is baseless because every action taken during my tenure of office was a collective one. General Achampon continued, and this on page 462. On July 5th, 1978, when some of the SMC members asked me to resign, I pointed out to them that it was not me as an individual that Ghanaians did not want. I told General Fred Akufu that they were looking for all of us. I warned General Akufu that he would regret this action and that he was going to create more confusion. My removal was not endorsed by all the SMC members, unquote. Still making the statement, General Kutua Champon parried off some accusations. He said, for instance, on page 463, Champon answered the most famous allegation against him, the allegations of his debauchery and lasciviousness. He says as follows, unquote, "It is not true that I bought golf cars for my numerous girlfriends. I don't deny that I had girlfriends. All of us have girlfriends, even you. Which of you flirts with your wives only? We all do it. And to me, I don't see how girlfriends contributed to the ruin of Ghana's economy. No one can claim to be a paragon of virtue. We all do it," unquote. Thus, Utuka and Achampon were the first to be killed. Everyone was shocked, and anyone of influence in Ghana tried to make moves to halt the killings, but all of that was to no avail. General Afifre's execution was the most unwarranted. He was accused of overthrowing Nkrumah in the 1966 coup, whilst General Ankara, who was part and leader of the coup, was not tried. Worse still, Section 37 of the Transitional Provisions of the 1969 Constitution had indemnified all coup makers, so that should have covered Afifa if this was a regular trial. But this was not a trial at all, where the accused person did not see the faces of the judges and didn't know how many judges were trying him. He only saw a glass screen in front of him. General Akwesi Amankwa Afrifa had actually removed his military clothes. He had become a full civilian, participated in politics, and actually was elected the UNC Member of Parliament in Mampong in the elections of June 18th, a few days after the coup. He had won the election on the ticket of the UNC as the only candidate to have won a seat in Ashanti region for William Oforiate's party. On June 26, 1979, the unthinkable happened. On the 26th of June 1979, Member of Parliament-elect Akwesi Amankwa Afrifa and 5 others were killed in cold blood in the second round of executions.
The executions were senseless, unnecessary, and dastardly.
Former Minister of Finance, General Hamido, informed us that he had taken our statement to him, and to our greatest delight and surprise, Chairman Rawlings made the broadcast, more or less reading the statements that we had prepared. That was a crucial moment in the revolution because it really called the executions to a halt. So that was June 4th, a horrible, dastardly, unwarranted uprising. Many years later, during the celebration of the June 4th uprising, Flight Lieutenant Rawlings described the Third Republic, which he overthrew, as a naive interruption to the revolutionary course.
In about 2 days' time, as you all know, will be the 8th anniversary of our long march. The long march that was naively and rudely interrupted. The march that was begun in 1979, which was fortunately resumed again on 31st December 1981.
On the same occasion, J.J. Rawlings complained about how June 4th celebrations had become synonymous with profanity from the soldiers.
I would like to make one little appeal, a personal one. Our mothers and wives are beginning to complain about some of the songs that our little ones are picking up. And they were hoping that we would tone down on some of the profanities. Of course, we can step them up outside of the barracks or wherever the children, in the absence of the children. But otherwise, I would like us to sing some of the other ones that we know about. One of the most popular ones that I used to know, somehow I don't even hear anymore. The one that goes, that's right. You see what I mean?
Be celebrated as a public holiday because it was an illegal act. The most tensed celebration of the June 4th revolution was in 1995. This was so because less than a month before the celebration, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, Charles Reko Brobe, Kweku Baku Jr., Kwesi Pratt Jr., Dr. Nyaho Tamaklo, Mr. Kakraba Cromwell, Mr. Akoto Ampao, and Mr. Kweku Poku had all led what became the biggest ever demonstration in Ghana. They called it the Kumi Preko demonstration. More than 100,000 people were on the street in protest against JJ's government. This seemed bigger than June 4th, and on the occasion of the 16th anniversary of June 4th, Flight Lieutenant Rawlings for the first time seemed rattled and issued threats to the opposition in a harsh manner, similar to the way he spoke in 1979 and in 1981.
However, ladies and gentlemen, let no one underestimate our capacity and resolve to react appropriately if their ugly noises provoke ugly actions from their blind followers.
During the other celebrations of June 4th whilst JJ was president, sometimes he was sober, even occasionally expressing regret for the things that had happened at June 4th, but still making his point.
June 4th therefore belongs to the people of this country, and they have a right to measure those of us in leadership today by the yardstick of June 4th, 1979. Ladies and gentlemen, there are some who say The times and conditions have changed. They say the excesses of June 4th era should not be glorified or made a part of national life. No, we do not glorify the excesses of June 4th, but we glorify its principles, and all of us must remember that principles are principles and they never change.
When John Agyekum Kufuor became president in the year 2001, the celebration of June 4th was immediately outlawed by an amendment to the Holiday Act. So what's the legacy of June 4th? Let's find out from the presidents of the Fourth Republic. J.J. Rawlings made it a holiday. John Kufuor, President Mills, President Mahama, and President Akufo-Addo all did not make it a holiday. So the verdict is J.J. 1, Kufuor, Mills, Mahama, and Akufo-Addo 4. Thus, J.J. has lost. The perpetual flame lit for June 4th must die. What shall we then say to June 4th? We can say good night, June 4th, good night. And when morning comes, please don't wake up. No one wants to see you. Never again will June 4th be given a national salute.
Right! National salute! Retake up!
And yes, the June 4th cheers will never be heard again. Goodbye, June 4th. Goodbye. Ghana will never do this again.